Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of August. I hope you're well. Happy birthday if it's happened already. And also happy birthday if it hasn't, I guess. Using the Pagan Otherworlds for you today. So we structure these mid-month readings slightly differently to the main monthly reading in so much as we are looking for the lesson. I believe that there is wisdom or a lesson contained within every experience and interaction that we have. Sometimes we miss that because we get very bogged down in, minutiae of things. And so as an exercise in perspective, what I like to do as a way of navigating what can be fairly challenging energy at times is to look at why we're in that energy in the first place, right? So to that end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 3 cards for your current energy and then 3 cards to work out why the fuck you're there in the first place, right? And then from there we will pull 3 cards of advice to see if we can't smooth the way just a little bit. Hope that makes sense. Should do by the end of the reading. Just before I get started, there are fake accounts that are out there, particularly on Instagram, that are pretending to be me. They have stolen my photos and my content, like re-uploaded it as theirs with the same name, and then are sliding into people's DMs and offering them readings, telling them that they have a magical, message from the universe for them. It's not me. It's not me. It's not how I work. It's not how I have ever worked and will never work that way. I have never solicited for business in people's DMs and I won't ever do that. Point number 1, I'm not doing personal readings at the moment. When I do, the folks on Patreon will know about it because I will put a post up there and tell them. I will tell you here on this channel by post, and I shall probably announce it when I'm doing the readings too. What else? Yeah. And I'll book them on Acuity Scheduler like I always have done, right? Because that thing saved my bacon. Because it stopped me from having to spend like 3 days a week responding to emails from people who were asking, if they could book in a reading, right? So that's the thing. I would really hate for anybody to fall for this, but it seems like the tarot community is being absolutely plagued by people doing this at the moment, and it's not cool. Please don't fall for it because it's not me. Only follow the links that are in the description box. That is all me. And if you do get approached by somebody on Instagram or even on Facebook, because I'm not on Facebook, and if somebody approaches you and makes out they're me, it's not me, and I would really appreciate a heads up so we can try and get this thing nailed down. It's not just me who's suffering from it. I've heard of lots of people. Chris from Minnow Pond's been having the same problem. And I've seen a lot of people on Instagram going, hello, this isn't my account. I'm going, oh God, that's awful. I hate for that to happen to me, and then here it is. So don't fall for it, and if you're in any doubt whatsoever, message me and I will put you straight, right? So, how are Leo? Let's see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Leo, please? Leo's current energy. Right. We have the Hanged Man. That's why I'm cackling. But it's come out sideways, and this is interesting. I like this. I feel like this is something to cling to, if nothing else. We also have the 5 of Wands here, and we have the 3 of Wands. Something's shifting, Leo. And it might have been the new moon where you felt it shifting. It might very certainly have been the Lion's Gate. I don't know about you, but it absolutely kicked the shit out of me. Like on the 8th of August, I literally had to just lie prone on the sofa all day and read a book. I couldn't do anything else. I tried, but I just couldn't do it at all. So I sat and read a book instead. Got the Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck as well. And this is why I feel like something is moving, right? Not least because the Hanged Man has now shifted out of this position where I think we're probably all in agreement that we've been sat in exactly this energy for the last 8 months now. Leo, God, something's got to break fucking soon, right? It's shifted here. Now, it isn't quite yet here which is where we would like it to be, because I think that we've all been nailed to a tree for quite long enough now. We've been looking, you know, for the wisdom in all situations for quite long enough. We have put ourselves into a state of discomfort, or perhaps been helped into a state of discomfort for long enough. And now we see things on a very subtle level that we did not see before. As much as I've whinged and bitched about the energy that I've been in, I have to say that I have made some really profound discoveries about myself during this time. And they're profound, but they're very, very simple, and they're very low level. And being in a state of, you know, this is the only way that I would have found myself accessing those, because otherwise other things would just get in the way, you know. It's been uncomfortable, but it is shifting. We're not yet coming out of it, but something has changed. And then everything else is wands. Now, as a fire sign, we like to see a lot of wands, particularly when it's tempered with notions of having gained wisdom about something, which you have. But we have the Five of Wands and we have the Three of Wands here. Now, the Five of Wands often speaks about conflict, right? That's usually the meaning of the card. And that can be conflict with other people, petty or otherwise. Or it can talk about internal conflict. You know, the internal wrestling of our own lion that we do on a relatively regular basis, I have to say. The interesting thing about this is that there's absolutely no one depicted here in this card. Like, normally we've got 5 youths and they're either, I don't know, they're like kicking the shit out of each other, or they're play fighting, where you can't really tell from that snapshot in time. You would look to the other cards around it to kind of give you the detail for that. But there's no one else here, Leo. It's only you. There's something that you're conflicted about. Now, I just heard for some of you, it's like you've been stood still for so long now, you're not actually sure if you can move again. You're not actually sure if you want to move again, which is interesting. Certainly something that I can express a certain amount of empathy with. But this Three of Wands, it's the smell of the sea. It's the smell of the change in the air. You know, that which we see with the Hanged Man coming sideways. Now, something has moved, something has shifted. And whilst it may not actually be expressing itself in terms of any kind of change outside of you, and I really do feel like everything's pretty much exactly as it has been for 8 months. There's almost a preparatory, I think the reason why you're having this conversation with yourself in the first place, like, am I even ready to do all of the things that I thought at the beginning of the year that I would be doing by August, to actually really want to do them now? Right? Some of that is very, very valuable. Like, some of those things that you were, you know, perhaps borderline obsessing over at the beginning of the year, now you're like, no, I think I'll just leave that, to be honest. I'll do something else, that's fine. That would have taken an awful lot of effort, and what would it have achieved? Probably not very much. That's useful. You need to catch yourself where you just don't want to do anything, and maybe because there might be a bit of low-level depression or something underneath there, right, Leo? We're fixed fire, but we do like a little bit of movement anyway, you know, and particularly when it's something that we've really put our heart and soul into, like, trying to manifest for ourselves. For whatever reason, it hasn't come through, and so there was that whole spiral of, you know, am I not working hard enough at this? Do I not deserve this? What the fuck? Like, you know, I feel like Leos have been actually pretty low over the course of this year, but something's shifting. Tell me about this Five of Wands, please. Four of Swords. There's something much more peaceful about your energy now. Four of Cups in reverse. A lot of you have been doing a lot of work on the things that have pained you. Like, we've got this Four of Swords and this Four of Cups in reverse, right? So for some of you, this notion of abandonment and rejection, which I see often in Leos, right? Leos are built a particular way. when they come into the world. And then the experiences that they have in early life tend to knock some of the stuffing out of the way that they are built, and it's almost like the Leo journey from that point on is trying to rediscover your shine. It's the ability to be able to be the sun when the actual sun goes behind a cloud, you know. And I think that this is something that Leos have been struggling with a lot. It's like, it's easy to be happy when everything's going well. It's easy to be chilled and, you know, relaxed when everything's, even when it's just pottering along, like when everything's okay. When you get stuck in a situation which, no matter how much you employ every ounce of intent that you have, all the power that you have, and it just does not fucking shift, it sends us down into a spiral. Like, maybe I'm not as powerful as I think I am. Maybe I'm going the wrong way. Maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe there is something here going on that I haven't seen. And maybe, you know, it's doubt. It's a lot of self-doubt, and we've been wrestling with that. And I think there's been a lot of peace made with certain things. Like I said, we've got, oh, fuck my life. I said before, like, this deck has 2, 3 of swords, and they're both there for you. Both the actual pain, but also a reframing of that pain, a shift in perspective. What was just painful now becomes a teaching instrument to you, you know. And we've got the Ace of Cups directly underneath that. So with this double pain, you've been tapping into something, but over the course of the last few months, right, in the absence of anything fucking going on outside of you, you've been doing some really interesting rearranging of your internal space. And I think for a lot of you, you're not actually aware of how much has changed and how much has shifted. But shifted it has. And I think that as I'm looking at this Five of Wands, it strikes me that the meaning of the card really only applies when there is something to fight. There is someone or something to fight. And I don't think that you were falling out with people around you. I don't think that was happening at all, Leo. I think that you've fallen out with yourself a number of times over the course of the last 8 months. And it seems like there were bits of your subconscious that were coming up and really clattering you about the head. And every single time you just picked yourself back up again, you've been like, oh, hello, here's the latest bit of my subconscious to be like trying to ram its wand into somewhere vulnerable and painful. What are you about? Let's just sit with you for a little while, you know? But there's no movement here on these sticks anymore. They're just propped up. They're just there. Have you stopped fighting yourself, Leo? I think that possibly this is true, because this Four of Swords is a peaceful scene. There are birds on top of that sword there. Like, there's not much going on. The heat of battle has long since passed, and these wands have just been stood up and left. And it feels to me like you have stopped fighting yourself on anything. Maybe you stopped fighting against the universe and rallying against the fact that whatever you were trying to manifest has not happened now. You know, the Hangman is a state of stasis. It is hanging around. It is completely passive too, right? There's no movement, no action going on when the Hangman presents and is upright. But he's shifted 90 degrees now. And all of these ones are propped up, just left, right? They're still accessible. You know, if you had a sudden fleet of people coming in and just wanted to, you know, fight with things, they could go straight to this set here and pick them up. But you have chosen to put them down. And whilst I don't think that you're all rocking a mindset of everything will happen in good time, and that's all right. Because I still sense the fiery kind of impatience going on there. It seems to me like you've done a lot of work in being able to quell that. Like I said, you may not believe entirely that everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Because Leos, much like, you know, other fixed signs, are kind of primed for activity. You know, if you want to be able to bolster your position or be in a strong position, that takes work, that takes effort, and Leos know that, and they do that, and they put an awful lot of work and effort into creating that for themselves. But you've been kind of stuck in this limbo place for quite a long time now. And it feels like finally there's a grudging acceptance that shit's just going to sort itself out when it sorts itself out. But we've got this Three of Wands. And we've got this Ace of Wands here. Now the Three of Wands does feel, to me, very much recently, like it speaks to changed behaviour rather than just activity, right? Picking a route that you're going down and heading that way because you know that you can't go anywhere just yet. So there are ways in which you have changed your behaviour, or you are changing your behaviour in readiness for this Ace of Wands. Because I think the shift that's happened for you, Leo, is not the fact that anything's changing outside of you, but like I said, it's the smell of the sea. It's getting close, and you know that it's almost time for things to start happening. It's almost time for things to start moving. And I think that the residual energy of the Five of Wands is, I smelt this, but now do I trust it? Because there've been a number of points over this last 8 months where I thought now it was going to get ready to change, now it was going to do something, and it didn't do it. It's the doubt coming up again. Why is Leo here, please? Three of Swords. Oh, I mean, the message could not be clearer, Leo. Fucking hell. We have the Six of Cups at the bottom of the deck. This card speaks to the past, right? Can sometimes talk about childhood or children, things like that. But it talks about the past. Wounding of the past. Hello, King of Swords, pointing directly at the wounding of the past. And then the Ace of Cups. You still had work to do, Leo. And the fact is, the scale of the changes that you were seeking to bring in, had they occurred at that time, you would have not done this work. And I always said, like, Leos are not afraid of doing their own work, but God. Have you not been yanked down into such a place of discomfort over the last 8 months, Leo? Incredible discomfort. And those really subtle bits of work that still needed to be done. You know, this King of Swords is pointing directly at this three. Right? You had to become aware of these. You had to know that there was still work to be done, deep work to be done. You had to acknowledge that you don't like being uncomfortable, and you don't. Like, you actually don't. 8 months of discomfort is quite enough for anyone, thank you very much. But what you have learned along the way, not only about the being stuck, being in a state of discomfort, but where it pointed you to, you know? You're coming out the other side of this, but it's this peaceful. This word peaceful is coming up again and again and again. You're coming out much more peaceful than you went into this process, and you haven't enjoyed it, and it's not been comfortable. It's been fucking awful, actually. But that in and of itself was a thing that needed dealing with. But this Ace of Cups is a renewal. You know, I just saw it as new love for a long time, right? Because that's what you're told that it means. But actually, in the style of reading that I do, when I am very much concerned with you and you alone, And I don't give a shit who's coming towards you, because that's not important. Right? What is important is the way that you open up to accept it. There's been a lot of work done here by you, and I think that there's much more peace and compassion in the way that you are dealing with yourself, because you have had to develop that at the points where you've been ready to flip tables and screech at walls because nothing is fucking moving and nothing is fucking changing. And my God, I'm so fucking bored of being in this energy, right? You've had to approach that differently. You don't have to like it, but you do have to approach it differently. And that is what you've done here, Leo. You've worked through some things. And the thing is, I often say, like, you know, when you start on a path of shadow work, when you stop doing, you know, self-exploration, the first things that you come across are the really big, obvious things. And you're like, holy shit, I'm like this because I had a narcissistic parent, and I see how I've repeated these patterns over and over again. And like, you know, it's like one revelation after another, and you're like, whoa, and it blows your mind apart. There's sufficient drama in the revelations that you have that you're like, cool, right, this is something I can really get my teeth into. And the improvements in your existence are almost instantaneous, right? And you're like, wow, this is banging, it's brilliant. But it feels to me like what has gone on for Leos over this last 8 months is in some ways comparable to what started in 2017. Less dramatic, but no less life-changing. Because once you've moved through those really obvious things and you've had those huge revelations, it's about cycling back to the situation and seeing the nuance of it, you know, going a bit deeper and digging a little bit deeper each and every time. And maybe you're just coming up with, you know, a twig or a leaf of something, you know, instead of a whole fucking ass tree. And you're like, this is really important. I know where I'm going with that metaphor, right? But it's about finding the small things, and it's the small things that sometimes can create the biggest obstacles. And this whole process has been about weeding that out. Weeding out the little things that turn into big things later on down the line. And I've said a number of times now, and I'm pretty sure I said it in both 6-month readings, I can't fucking remember though, that this whole year was about improving your ability to be able to accept, right? It's about improving your receptivity. Because what was coming towards you, and I believe still is coming to you, is an order of magnitude bigger than what you actually were setting your intent out to get, right? But if you didn't do this work first, if you didn't do this work on your doubt, your self-doubt, if you didn't work on really believing in yourself or believing in something else, that when this thing came towards you, you'd end up sabotaging yourself. Not on purpose, because no one ever engages in self-sabotage on purpose. Well, some people might, but right, for the most part, most people don't. But you would doubt so much that you were worthy of this. You would doubt so much that you were, you know, that it was right for you to have this, that in some way, subconsciously, you would kick this away from yourself. It's about removing the really deeply rooted pattern from youth. That stops you being able to accept stuff. Accepting help, you know. Accepting praise and adoration. There's probably like 1 or 2 aspects of your life where you're quite happy to be like, yeah, I'm really good at this, excellent at this. But every other respect It's like those little doubts that kind of creep up on you when you're doing something mundane like making dinner, and it's like, oh, yeah. You know, the elephant in the room is that I'm not actually really that good. And the thing is, Leo, that's not true. If it were that much of an elephant in the room, somebody would have brought it up, you know. Let's get you some cards of advice. We have the Seeker, which is an extra card in this deck here, and this has been coming up for you a lot, Leo, when I've used this deck for you. We have the World too. I don't think that card's come out for any reading since I started using this deck. What card of advice for Leo, please? 3 of Cups. We've got the 10 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. That is commitment. That is heritage and legacy. That is, you know, in some ways material fulfillment, but I don't tend to see it that way. It's stability. And all of this really boring work that you've been doing. And at times it has been boring. Like I said, there's not been these huge revelations. Oh, wow, this is why it's like, fuck's sake. Everything's just been, fuck's sake. I know I have to do this, and I'm just fucking, have I not done enough? That in and of itself was the work too, Leo. We've got the Seeker. You know, we've got a dude who is literally sticking his head outside of the veil, and like I said, I think that this has been right for you because the Leos have been somewhere else. Like, it's been really, really difficult to focus on 3D things for a long time. Like, finding you're doing an awful lot of stuff on autopilot. Where are you? You don't really know where you are. The only thing you can say for certain is that time moves very fucking differently where you have been compared to out here, because now it's fucking August. Hello, what? It's got no business being August, and yet here it is. You've had your head through the veil, right? You and the moon have been in dialogue here, and it's not fancy, there's no fireworks, it's not exciting, but it's important. It's very important because it's put you in a state of this. As advice, it feels to me like it's a pushing you to notice where you have been up until this point, but potentially also to expect that this is something of a regular occurrence for you now, right? Periodically, you're going to have to stick your head out. I have to say, I felt much more awake and much more engaged since the Lionsgate peaked. I'm kind of all like, oh, I'm getting stuff done now. And actually, it was, with the exception of the day of the Lionsgate peaking, the difference in me from the point where it opened, and it was about maybe the 28th or the 29th of July, something like that, I just suddenly seemed to kind of wake up again, and the things that had been really, really difficult for me to do for a long time, for months and months and months, suddenly I could just do them and it was okay. It wasn't costing me anything energetically, and I was like, oh, look at me, I'm sort of coming back online a little bit here. This is useful. Still don't have anywhere near as much energy as I would like. But the energy of August feels markedly different to the energy that was kind of smothering us in July, you know? I have the World. And much like the way that I've described everything here, this is a really muted and understated card. You know, usually the World is this woman in a state of bliss, and she's just floating in the air and her clothes are flapping around, and, you know, there's a big, all the fixed signs are around, being all like, hey, they're graduating and it's all cool, you know, and she's all like, yes, look at me, I'm graduating, it's awesome. Just standing on the globe there, right? Even her wings look a little bit like lopsided, and it's just like, oh, end of that cycle then. Do you know what I mean? There's almost It's almost something akin to an anticlimax to it. It's the best way I can describe it. It's like, yay, I'm holding my fucking loincloth on with one hand, and I've got, yeah, all of this brilliant insight. Like, the excitement and the pageantry that you usually expect to see with a world card just isn't there. But nevertheless, the meaning of the card is still what it is. It's still, you have completed something. Be aware that something has ended in this time. And we've got this Three of Cups. I think it's time for you to start reaching out again, Leo. It's time for you to start forging relationships again. I think for the most part, a lot of you have been, spectacularly withdrawn over the last, definitely over the last 6 months, but probably the full 8-month period. It's time to start putting out feelers again. It's time to start engaging with people outside of your immediate dynamic. Again, it's time to start building some relationships. It's Page of Wands. Yeah, this is all about preparation. Ace of Swords. It's time to start gathering firewood, Leo. Because change is coming. It is coming. And you know that it's coming. Don't allow yourself to talk yourself out of the knowledge, the intuition that you have that something has shifted and something's about to change. There may come a point where you are glad that you had 8 months to do nothing. I'm not quite sure where that point is, but I think it's coming soon. Okay, Leo, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.